Welcome to this fourth video in this series about Elasticsearch's e-commerce accelerator called PRISM. PRISM stands for Policy Rules and Intent Synthesis Middleware. In this video, you'll learn how PRISM implements cohort boosting to ensure that each user sees personalized and relevant results. The techniques that I'm about to demonstrate in this video are described in detail in this article, How to Improve E-commerce Search Relevance with Personalized Cohort-Aware Ranking. This is on Elasticsearch Labs. Additionally, in the PRISM series, which is coming out as we are recording, we will also cover this approach in detail. So if a user who's not logged in, so you can see up here in the top right corner, no user, searches for bread, we will do our best to show them bread, but we don't know anything about their preferences. So we're really showing just good matches for the word bread. However, if we know something about a user, for example, if we switch to the user Grace, she's a vegetarian. So we should boost up the products that have the dietary restriction vegetarian. So you can see here in her profile, she has been tagged as being in a cohort called vegetarian. You can also see that the results in the background just changed. All of these have this green vegetarian tag. So there's actually two policies that are being applied here. One is the bread policy, which says if the user searched for bread, exactly the word bread, then we're going to show them products that have been tagged as being in the breads category. And in this case, it's a hard filter, meaning only show those products that have that tag. If you want to learn more about tiers, you can see that in the previous video. And you can see that there's a strict tier, a relaxed tier, and a semantic tier. And each one has its own definition of how products within a given category will be treated. Additionally, there's a cohort policy. It's called cohort vegetarian. And this one is tagged cohort vegetarian. That's the name of it. It's any user that is in the cohort with this word vegetarian written exactly like that will have this policy applied to their queries. And so this is a match all. So every query that's entered by a user in this cohort will have this policy applied. The policy says, let's boost up any products that have the dietary restriction of vegetarian. And why is that a boost? Well, you can see here, it's treated in the strict tier as a soft boost of 2. Relaxed tier and semantic tier also have a soft boost of 2. Again, we talked about tiers in the previous video, so I won't go into that right now. So what does that query look like? Well, you can see here in DevTools, if we look at the query, I'll copy that and copy it into Cabana DevTools. What this query is doing, it's matching the word bread against the full text field as well as against the title. There's also, because there's two policies being applied, but differently. So there's the hard filter. So the products must be in the breads category. But remember, there was also a soft boost. So this user should be shown with preference products that are tagged with a dietary restriction of vegetarian. And so the reason that's a soft boost is because this is all wrapped within a function score that ultimately says, we're going to multiply the BM25 score by 1 plus, if this happens to be true, if they're in the vegetarian category, it would be multiplied by 1 plus 2. So 3 ultimately. If you look back at the results, you can see that in the score calculations, you can see the base score, so BM25 score, and then it's multiplied by 1 plus the soft boost. We just saw that has a value of 2 in the vegetarian cohort. There's also the margin and popularity boosting, which I'm not going to go into detail in this video. If we switch to a different user who happens to be in a different cohort, let's go to Eve, who's a Halal. And so you can see that This user is being shown products that are in the halal category. Again, it's in the green here. There's also a purchase boost applied, which I will talk about in the next video. But ultimately, you can see that the policies that have been applied are now the halal policy and the bread policy. So this user searched for bread, they're shown only breads because that's what this policy says, but also because they're in the halal cohort, we are boosting up the halal products for them. So what about if somebody, let's say that Bob, who's a vegetarian, what if he searches for meat? Well, he's shown products that actually satisfy what he would be interested in. So he's being shown meat lovers, vegan burgers, vegan burgers, etc., meat-free hot dog. And so, for someone who we know is a vegan, that's a perfect result. That is doing exactly what cohort boosting is designed to do. Another example is we have, again, cohorts don't have to be only related to dietary restrictions. We could define any policy that we want. A cohort is just another policy, just like every other policy. And so we have this guy, Frank. He's a sweet tooth who loves chocolate, and he's tagged as a sweet tooth cohort. So if we look in and search for bread, we can see, okay, so sweet tooth cohort, what does that mean? If a product happens to be in the sweet snacks category, like this one, sweet snacks, then it will be boosted up. Again, that was not a dietary restriction at that point. That was just a category, but we've created, again, I'll click on that again. We've created a cohort called sweet tooth. We've defined it, the name or the cohort name as sweet_tooth. So if a user is tagged as being in the cohort called sweet_tooth, then this policy will be triggered. So every query, because it's a match all, every query that user enters will now have a boost applied to any products that are within the sweet snacks category. And you can see that it's a soft boost of 2. We don't want to exclude other products, but we're boosting up the products for that user because we know that they like sweets. And so you can see there are 2 conflicting policies. I will talk about conflict resolution in another video. But one of the policies applied a sweet snacks category. The other one, the bread policy, applied a breads category. So there's conflict. They've both been downgraded into a soft boosts because we didn't, well, that's what we specified in terms of how they should be handled. I'll cover that in more detail in a future video. And that's everything I wanted to talk about. So thanks for watching.